15 spine-chilling confessions revealed, haunted tales of the unexplained and cursed encounters, the shrill ring of the phone sliced through the evening calm. Sarah Mackenzie's heart raced as she answered, the dim light of the diner flickering in her memory. "Mommy? I hear something moving outside." Her daughter Lily's shaky voice pierced her like a sharp knife, fear dripping from every syllable. Shadows danced just beyond the window, twisting and contorting. It felt like the air thickened, like a predator lurking just outside their perfect suburban bubble. Panic surged within Sarah. Was someone really watching them? "Lily, sweetie, it's probably just the wind," Sarah breathed, her own voice trembling. She brushed off the words, forcing a smile that trembled. "You know how kids' imaginations get. Everything is fine." Yet, as she turned back toward the diner, that soothing calm shattered. The hum of the diner faded into a haunting silence, and the rustling outside echoed in her mind, an unwelcome soundtrack to her descent into fear. Finally stepping through her front door, a sickening chill wrapped around her spine. The back door stood ajar, swinging slightly. Was it the wind? Or something else? Her heart hammered as she approached the front, and there it was, a note pinned to the door. "You should have left it alone." The simplicity of the words was terrifying. What did it mean? Her hands shook as she dialed the police. When the officers arrived, their condescending laughter made her feel small. "Ma, you're overreacting," one chuckled, plucking the note from her hand dismissively. They left without a care, driving away while she stood frozen, feeling more trapped in Maple Grove than ever. The supposed safe haven transformed into a prison of shadows, every creak in the house felt like footfalls creeping closer. No longer mundane, the walls echoed with her growing paranoia. Peering through the window, she spotted Mr. Thompson across the street, in his manicured yard. His strange smiles and odd glances over the fence bubbled back up, an uneasy feeling bubbling in her gut. What had she missed? For years they exchanged pleasantries while her kids played, and now he felt like a specter from a horror movie. Taking a breath, she forced herself to approach his porch, dread pooling in her stomach. What if he was the reason behind the note? What if he knew? Stop it. Paranoia clawed at her thoughts, but she needed answers. Just before knocking, a chilling scream shattered her sanity. "Mommy! Come quick!" It was Lily's voice, rising above the winds. Fear gripped her body like ice. What did they find? The suburban facade of Maple Grove transformed into a nightmarish illusion. Shadows shifted ominously as she spun on her heel, heart racing, mind whirling. Was there truly something lurking in the darkness? Trusting instincts felt like a gamble, and she was left wondering what horrors were about to unfurl before her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With trepidation in her veins, Sarah stepped toward the backyard, every fiber in her body screaming to turn back. Secrets hung thick in the air, each breath laced with the bitterness of dread. What had Lily seen? What loomed just beyond the light? Each step felt heavier, dragging her closer to an unknown terror, every moment teasing her with hints of a truth that maybe she wasn't ready to face. The night stretched around her like a trap, and the answers awaited, hidden just beyond the shadows, waiting to snatch away the last sliver of her comfort. What lay beneath the surface of Maple Grove? The darkness whispered, and she had to know before it was too late. Sarah stumbled toward the backyard, her breath quickening. Every shadow seemed alive, ready to lash out. Lily's scream echoed in her mind, urgent, filled with terror. As she pushed through the gate, her heart raced uncontrollably. The yard, usually a sanctuary, felt foreign under the moonlight. Where was Lily? Lily! She called, voice shaking, cutting through the stifling silence. The wind whipped around her, carrying whispers she couldn't comprehend. The trees danced, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a figure darting among them, something dark and swift. "Mommy, help me!" The frantic cry came again, this time closer, but twisted. It tugged at her insides, fear twisting her gut like a vice. Sarah rushed forward, a chilling realization washing over her. Lily's voice, was it really her daughter? It felt off, like a haunting echo stripped of innocence. Was someone mimicking her precious girl? With faltering steps, she crept further into the yard, the shadows growing deeper, more suffocating. She squinted, scanning for the source, the fear rising like bile in her throat. Where was her little girl? The ground felt spongy beneath her feet, as if something were alive beneath the surface. Panic loomed heavy. Suddenly, the bushes rustled violently. "Mommy, over here!" A small hand emerged from behind them, beckoning. Relief flooded Sarah's heart, followed quickly by dread. There was something off about Lily's wide eyes, they glinted almost unnaturally in the moonlight. "Lily, are you okay? What is happening?" Sarah's voice trembled, trying to conceal her fear. "I found it. But we shouldn't have." The child stepped into view, clutching a small, old, tattered book. Its cover was stained and cracked, twisted symbols etched deep into the leather. An overwhelming sense of dread filled Sarah's chest. "What did you find, honey?" She reached for Lily, who took a step back, eyes fixed on the book. "It told me things, bad things, Mommy. They're coming for us." Lily's voice climbed, filled with a terror that echoed through the air, stirring something ancient and sinister within the night. "Put it down. We need to go inside," Sarah yelled, the urgency clawing at her. But Lily hesitated, the tome clutched tightly in her tiny hands. The shadows twisted around them, growing darker, like tendrils creeping ever closer. Sarah felt a jolt of primal fear. She looked around. It was as if the ground itself was pulsating, dark shapes merging from the shadows. "Mommy, I can hear them," Lily whispered, face pale. "They want me. They say I must share the story. Hurry. We have to get away." Sarah's heart thundered. As she lunged for her daughter, the shadows leapt forward, a mist-like horror reaching out as if eager to swallow them both. In that moment, the book slipped from Lily's fingers, landing with a thud on the grass. It opened, pages fluttering as ominous whispers filled the air. Secrets long buried danced with the cold night winds, wrapping around them, squeezing Sarah's breath. "Lily!" She reached for her, but something seized her ankle, dragging her back. "No!" The reality twisted, and terror surged through her veins like ice. She fought against whatever held her, panic pulsing in time with the whispers that intertwined with the shadows. As darkness enveloped them, a chilling voice echoed in the night. "You shouldn't have left it alone." Just then, everything went black, leaving behind only the rustling pages of the book, whispering of horrors unknown. What had Lily awakened with that cursed book? And who was watching through the shadows, waiting to pounce? The world came back to Sarah in fragments, waking up in a haze, disoriented. The air was thick and oppressive, heavy with an unseen weight. She gasped as though surfacing from deep water, consciousness fighting against the all-consuming darkness that had struck. Her pulse raced, and her chest heaved with desperation. "Lily!" Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. Was she still in the yard? The cold ground beneath her felt clumpy and damp, a sickening sensation on her skin as she sat up. Flickering moonlight cut through the chaos, outlining twisted branches like fingers reaching into the void. Silence. Lily was gone, the book lay nearby, its pages turning slowly as if a ghostly hand was perusing the contents. Shadows clung to it, flickering like a flame caught in the wind. Overwhelmed with dread, Sarah crawled toward it, feeling the ground shift beneath her palms, pulsing alive, sending jolts of panic shooting up her arms. She could smell the earthy rot mixed with a burning sensation of dread rising up from within the soil. Please, Lily. Sarah's voice wavered. Where are you? She reached for the book, each word brushing taut against her skin like a warning, an electric chill. The symbols all seemed to twist and warp, mocking her with their incomprehensible designs. But it wasn't just the book. There was something else in the air, a presence that seemed to snicker at her disarray. Goosebumps prickled along her arms. Show yourself. She screamed, anger flaring against her fear. Her breath came fast, almost panting, her instincts screaming to flee, but her heart echoed Lily's name in the darkness. The wind howled with a razor-sharp whisper, soft and seductive. You must know the truth. It curled into her ears, wrapping around her thoughts, squeezing out the last remnants of resistance. The words of the book floated in her mind, weaving tales of betrayal. She could see visions, images of unspeakable horrors. Sacrifices made to darkness, innocent laughter twisted into terror. It felt overwhelming, like a rush of blood to the head, suffocating her in its embrace. Her mind flashed to Lily, her daughter's small face twisted in fear. What if it was really too late? No. She bellowed, ripping her eyes from the book, forcing herself to move. She stood shakily, heart hammering painfully against her ribs. Shadows flickered at the edge of the yard, shifting, ready to pounce. Lily. She called again, her voice piercing through the weighty hush. But only silence answered. The wind shifted, carrying a cacophony of distant laughter. A childish giggle sliced against the quiet. It twisted with malice, wrapping Smith and Lyle around her heart like coiling serpents. Where had that sound come from? The trees began to sway violently, leaves rustling, branches creaking. Their movements seemed almost alive, beckoning. In the corner of her vision, something darted behind an oak, quick and slick. Her breath hitched. Maybe it was Lily. She rushed forward, pulses pounding in her ears. As she ran, the air thickened, shifting like a fog, pulling her deeper into the darkness. She felt herself slip into something more sinister, like a net closing around her. No longer just her daughter was in danger. She realized now she too was prey, drawn behind the veil of the night. With each frantic step, the laughter swelled, unnervingly close. It seemed to dance around her, mocking, growing louder. Screams of other lost souls echoed in the agony she had uncovered. Shadows twisted together, forming a pact that reeked of something ancient and evil, something that sought to take them all. Lily. With every fiber in her being, Sarah pushed forward. She had to find her. But just as she stumbled forward, a hand reached out from the shadows, the tiniest fingers grasping her own. Sarah froze, heart racing. She looked down, but the face she saw wasn't Lily's. It was a child lost and hollowed by despair. Help us, the figure whispered, eyes hollow and dark, as the shadows continued to twist. Fear gripped Sarah's heart as she gasped. What had become of her daughter? What was the price of the truth? The shadows closed in tighter as the child's voice whispered, "You've awakened them now, you must join the story." And the world around her began to spiral into oblivion. Would she brave the depths to uncover her daughter's fate, or succumb to the voices of the cursed? The darkness enveloped Sarah as the shadows pressed on her, the ground below feeling less like earth and more like a tangible fear, pulsating with each desperate heartbeat. She fought against the tightening grip of unseen hands, her breath catching in her throat. "Where's Lily?" she cried again, this time demanding, clawing at the edges of the nightmare. The child's hollow eyes held her gaze, an abyss of sorrow far too ancient for such small features. In that moment, Sarah felt a bond, a connection formed from shared suffering. As the whispers grew louder, an insistent chorus broke through the night. "Join us," the voice echoed, an invitation wrapped in dread. "No." She yanked her hand away from the child, stumbling backward, every instinct screaming for her to retreat. She couldn't afford to get lost in this web of despair. Twisted branches loomed overhead, like sentinels judging her every move, watching as terror flickered in her eyes. Thinking she could find the path back to reality, Sarah turned, but the shadows shifted too, blocking her retreat. Panic surged, her pulse pounding in her ears louder than the laughter that swirled around her. Each echo was a reminder of the stakes, of what was slipping away. The air thickened, stifling like a blanket, wrapping its tendrils around her throat. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to hold on to the reality of her mission to find Lily. Steeling her nerves, she breathed deeply, tasting iron and fear. "If you know where she is, tell me." She shouted into the darkness, hoping against hope she could summon some trace of reason amid the chaos. "Free her," the child urged, tilting its head slightly as if genuinely confused by Sarah's defiance. "You must give something to receive." A pulse of dread shot through her. What could she possibly offer? With every second that slipped by, the shadows grew more substantial, crawling toward her, eager to consume her spirit. In a moment of clarity, she recalled the book. Its words haunted her, spilling the stories of offerings made of souls that had given themselves to satisfy ancient debts. She turned back toward the book, now swaying like a pendulum in the weight of night. Her fingertips brushed the pages, and suddenly, they lit up with ghostly energy, as though the narratives contained were alive and whispering secrets. Symbols shifted and writhed, revealing fragments of past deals, sacrifices made not just of flesh, but of memories, dreams, and love. Enough. She gasped, wrestling against the darkness. "I won't trade her for this." The shadows hissed, anger crackling in the air. A heartbeat later, the child loomed closer, desperation etched into its hollow features. "Save us, save her," it pleaded, an unsettling harmony mixing with the laughter that echoed around them. Then, the atmosphere shifted again, as if the ground had given way beneath her. Sarah staggered, feeling the rush of horror flood her, her own memories slipping like sand through her fingers. Every treasured moment with Lily threatened to drown in the murky depths below. "Stop!" she shouted, closing her eyes. "I won't let you take her." But the darkness only deepened, shadows stretching like grasping hands. Panic escalated, leaving her gasping as she fought against a tide of despair, desperate to cling to the girl she loved. When she opened her eyes, the child had vanished, leaving only the echoes of their whispers, lingering like smoke. Were those sounds of other lost ones, or perhaps a warning? With blurred vision, she turned around, breathless. The yard morphed before her, the trees twisting into grotesque formations, each gnarled branch seeming to beckon her toward the unknown. The book lay open, but the words had transformed, becoming a chilling command: choose. What dared she choose? To give in to despair, surrendering to the shadows? Or to brave the darkness, willing to confront the terrible truth buried beneath? As a new voice wrapped around her like a slithering serpent, offering both salvation and damnation, Sarah felt the air grow taut with an unspeakable choice. Just then, a piercing scream echoed through the night, one that she recognized all too well. It was Lily. And in that moment, Sarah realized she was running out of time. What was the true cost to save her daughter? Would she be forced to play their twisted game? The scream shattered the night, piercing Sarah's heart like a dagger. It was a sound that blended fear with a raw desperation only a mother could understand. The shadows twisted quicker, as if recognizing that fear, feeding off it. Time seemed to stretch, each second filled with both dread and determination. "Lily." Sarah's voice cut through the swirling darkness, but it was swallowed whole, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. She stumbled forward, fighting against the weight of the unseen, her hands reaching out to trace the gnarled branches for guidance. They felt alive, quivering under her touch, as if they had a mind of their own. This place was sentient. Eyes wide, Sarah's breath quickened. She needed light. She needed clarity. With the book still open and its words etched in her mind, she concentrated on the secrets it held. Some offerings sparked in her memory, captured glances, belly laughs, quick hugs. But she couldn't sacrifice those. Not Lily. Just then, the laughter returned, mocking and taunting. "We see you, she's close, yet so far." A chorus of voices dripped with malice, echoing from every direction, tangling her thoughts in a web of hopelessness, she pressed her palms against her temples to stave off the torrent inside her head. No. She shouted at the shadows, at herself, at the child who had vanished. I want to become like you. The air shifted, vibrating with an energy that sent a shudder through her bones. Tendrils of darkness spun around her legs, trying to pull her down, but she fought, grounding herself in the single gem of hope that was Lily. Suddenly, among the swirl of despair, Sarah remembered something. The bond tied by love was stronger than any shadow. Lily. She called out again, this time with conviction, letting love pour through her voice. I'm coming. Just hold on. With renewed strength, Sarah sprinted deeper into the yard, cutting through the shadows that clawed at her. The whispers became frantic, rising into a cacophony that threatened to consume her. Join us, don't resist. Each step felt as if she were running through thick sludge, but she pushed onward, her mind locked onto the sound of her daughter's cries. They led her past the skeletal trees and toward a gathering of fog that roiled in the moonlight. The mist curled and coiled while the laughter escalated, mingling with Lily's desperate pleas. Please, just a little more. Sarah urged herself, dragging her feet through the mire, fueled by a primal drive that lit her veins with fire. A flicker in the mist caught her eye was at a light. There, in the middle, a figure shimmered momentarily before being swallowed back into the oppressive blackness, heart racing. Sarah reached the source, her hands grasping at the void before her. The atmosphere thickened. She could almost feel Lily's warmth creeping back, yet the shadows responded with fury, swirling, pulsing, tightening like a noose around her neck. Free her, a voice hissed, this time clearer than before, seductive and dark. What will you choose? I choose love. Sarah screamed, desperation fueling her resolve. I choose to fight. Without warning, she threw the book open again, its pages flaring with the brightness of 1,000 stars. Words glowed, casting shadows back into the night. I will offer you my light. Just as the text shimmered, every shadow waned for a brief moment, a gasp of surprise escaping the swirling darkness. In response, the mist began to coalesce around Sarah, forming a barrier as if it feared her act of defiance. Then, amidst the chaos, a piercing, anguished scream echoed again, a sound that transcended the horror. Mom! The voice rang clear, yet it felt like a siren call pulling Sarah deeper into the heart of the nightmare. The earth trembled beneath her feet, reacting to her choices, lined with hidden dangers. Lily. But now, it wasn't just a plea, it was a challenge. The shadows quaked with rage, and Sarah's heart thudded, her resolve strengthening with every second. She realized the fight had only just begun. What dark price would she have to pay for the truth? Would she need to sacrifice more than she ever thought possible to rescue Lily from their grasp? The night grew heavier, thickening around Sarah like a fog that weighed down her very spirit. The screams of her daughter tore through the air again, mixing with the laughter until it felt like a knife in her chest. What was happening? What kind of twisted game was this? Lily. Sarah's voice trembled as she fought against despair. Every passing second felt like an eternity, her racing heart pounding in her ears. Shadows flickered, dancing along the edges of her vision, a sinister ballet that seemed to mock her struggle. The barrier the light had formed began to melt, the edge of protection eroding away. Shadows fell like liquid against her skin, icy tendrils probing, reaching, searching. You cannot stop us, Sarah, whispered the echo of 1,000 voices. You cannot save her. No. She pressed her palms against the gnarly wood of the trees, keeping her focus, her fear transforming into a weapon rather than a weakness. She needed to harness the book's power, to fight back against the dark. It felt as if the air itself crackled with energy, ready to explode at her command. Lily. She called, praying her daughter could still hear her beneath the weight of the darkness. Look for my light. But the shadows writhed in response, vanishing back into the thicker gloom with a sinister hiss. The laughter felt like needles in Sarah's mind, jabbing into her resolve. Every choice has a price, the deep voice taunted from the depths of the dark. What are you willing to sacrifice? She swallowed hard, bile rising in her throat. She refused to answer. Get away from her. The words almost sounded like a spell, powered by desperation. With renewed courage, she held the book open wider, the glow intensifying as the words poured forth from her mouth, flowing like an incantation into the resonating darkness. The ground shook beneath her, and chaos erupted around her in a riot of shadows. With each syllable, swirling forms flickered closer, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. Your love blinds you, Sarah, they hissed. Light cannot save what it cannot touch. She felt the ground give beneath her feet, the shadows dragging at her, threatening to engulf her in a whirlpool of black. Frantically, she grappled to stay upright, her heartbeat echoing in the stillness. I want to let go. But then, out of the growing tempest, she could see a silhouette forming. It wasn't mere shadows, it was something else, something alive, and yet twisted. Blackened hands with elongated fingers reached out, moving with an unnerving grace. They were the reflections of desires, they drew on her mind, showing her horrifying images of past choices, regrets she thought buried deep. Join us, Sarah. The voice was soft, seductive, curling into her ears like smoke. She is lost. Try to find her, and you only lose yourself. Stop. She screamed, pushing against the thickening air that wrapped around her like chains. Suddenly, the figure of her daughter flickered in and out of the fog, the ghostly image of Lily, her little face twisted in fear, calling for her mother. Mom! The sound shattered Sarah's heart once more. She lunged forward, desperate to reach Lily, her arms outstretched. Make your choice. The shadows roared in unison, their collective breath hot against her skin. Sacrifice one for the other. A flash of insight cut through her panic. She knew she had to act, and she had to act fast. Her love couldn't just be a shield, it had to be a weapon. But what does it mean to exchange love for love? Could she turn the dark against itself? In that breathless moment, filled with anxiety and dread, she had to make a decision. Would she risk letting one go to save the other? Could she even live with the choice she might make? Lily, as the shadows drew upon her once more, an impossible tension crystallized in the air. Sarah had but a heartbeat to decide. What if the darkness demanded more than she could fathom? The shadows lunged at her, coils of darkness wrapping tighter around her legs, a rubber band stretched to its limit. Panic surged through Sarah, a tide of raw terror. The shadowy hand seemed to whisper promises of power, coaxing her indecision. Each whisper gnawed at her resolve, a morbid sweet song that taunted her courage. Lily, it came again, softer this time, a faint echo that wrapped around her heart. Her eyes stung with tears made of pure despair. She felt the ripples of the elemental darkness vibrating around her, and the ground trembled as if the earth itself was groaning in response to her turmoil. In a heartbeat, she weighed her choices, the unbearable enormity of them suffocating. The laughter filled her head again, a macabre symphony of joy and anguish that twisted her insides. What will it be, Sarah? Are you ready to lose one to save the other? No. She roared, her voice breaking through the oppressive haze. Raw, fierce defiance coursed through her, chasing away the doubt like light scattering darkness. She pushed the book into the shadows, filling the air with the essence of hope and love, twisting all the regret into a fragile, shimmering shield. Get away from her. She screamed again, but this time with conviction, each syllable pulsing like a heartbeat through the thick stench of fear. The shadows hissed, retreating momentarily as if recoiling from the light she emanated. Yet, from that retreat, Sarah felt it a glimmer of pathway forward. She could feel the deep, hidden recesses of her soul igniting with a fire that she thought extinguished. Lily. The name fell from her lips like an incantation, reverberating into nothingness, pulling at the threads of the dark fabric shrouding her daughter. If she could just channel every ounce of love, focus it like laser beams, perhaps she could succeed in shattering the enigma of the shadows, altering the very atmosphere around them, but the ground shook even harder, as if it protested her awakening power. The shadows flared and surged, becoming more aggressive. Sarah stumbled back, the very air crackling with hostility, a battleground of wills clashing fiercely. The sinister laughter echoed again, louder, mocking her, each chuckle a reminder of her impending failure. Such a heartbreaking choice, the murky voice dripped like oil over her resolve. A mother's love can only stretch so thin before it splinters. Touch her soul, and yours will wither. No. The roar exploded from Sarah's throat, breaking the boundaries of her fear, exploding like fireworks against a midnight sky. The shadows screamed in return, a cacophony of unearthly howls that sounded like a million souls in torment. Where was her strength? Where was the love that burned so fiercely? Her thoughts turned back tightly to Lily, and she summoned all of it, all her hope, pouring it into the book once more. The glow intensified, a beacon in the night, burning through the dark with an illuminating fury. The shadows recoiled, fear finally seeping into their malevolence. Just as Sarah felt hope bloom, the ground beneath her shattered, revealing the chasm of despair below. No. Not now. And as her heart raced, a change stirred within the deep shadows. Something shifted, forcing Sarah to confront yet another terrifying reality. Out of the swirling night, something emerged, pulling her gaze downward towards the abyss, towards the flickering image of her daughter. Mom! The ghostly call shattered the moment, and in that instant, Sarah's world twisted again. Time stretched, fingers of shadows choking the light. She teetered between realms, her daughter's lost spirit flickering beneath, trailing closer to the void. Could she bridge the gap? Your love is strong, but can it conquer the void? The question hung in the air, pregnant with dread. Her mind raced. Could she wield that love? Would she dare plunge into the dark depths? What awaited her if she jumped? Would it swallow her whole, or was there something more? The shadows coiled tighter, and a single word echoed through her bones: choose. Her breath quickened, a rapid staccato that echoed in her ears, drowning out the whispers. The choice lay before her like the mouth of a cave, dark and foreboding. Choose. The word pulsed with a life of its own, as if it had breath and teeth. A relentless pressure throbbed in her chest, the weight of her decision threatening to crush her. Lily. The desperation in her voice crackled through the void. Was her daughter really there, hiding beneath the shadows, or was she just a trick of the dark? Sarah couldn't let the thought linger. She couldn't let doubt creep in again. Don't leave me. She cried, willing her love to fill the dark spaces. She raised the book above her head, and the light surged, piercing through the oppressive veil. The shadows writhed, their forms shifting in agitation. But with that surge of light came a wave of fatigue, each pulse of energy drawing from her reserves. She could feel it, the serenity of her heart was giving way to desperation. The darkness reformed, coiling above her like a monstrous serpent preparing to strike. They were intelligent, alive, and they craved her doubt more than they feared her love. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. An eerie silence fell, thick and suffocating. Then, an unforgiving chill swept through Sarah, a breath from the abyss, sly and mocking. You really believe you can save her? The voice slithered from the shadows, wrapping around her mind like a noose. You are weak, Sarah. Your love is nothing but a flicker against the storm. No. She screamed, the word tumbling out raw and wild. I'll dive into the void if I have to. I will not let you take her. In that moment, Sarah felt the ground tremble beneath her, splitting wide with ominous intent, the chasm yawning deeper as if responding to her renewed defiance. A fierce gale swept through the void, swirling the shadows into a frenzy. Tendrils reached for her, clawing at her skin, defiant in their power. Mom! The voice was clearer now, desperate and sweet, pulling at her heartstrings. Sarah could almost see her daughter, a shimmer of hope amidst the swirling desolation. Help me! It echoed through her soul, a haunting melody, freezing and igniting her spirit all at once. The shadows hesitated, their grip faltered as Sarah's fierce determination swelled in her chest. I will save you, Lily. She shouted, her voice electrifying the air. But was it true? What if she failed? What would become of her if she sacrificed herself? The shadows hissed again, their hunger palpable, a cacophony of enticing promises and threats. Embrace the darkness, Sarah. Let it nourish the love you hide. You could have power beyond your imagination, or you could watch her slip away, forever lost. The darkness was winning. Her heart raced, anxiety coursing through her veins like ice. She felt the pull, a seductive whisper of power, inviting her to fold into the darkness, to give into it. But then, she saw Lily's face streaked with tears, a ghost trapped in an endless night. Mom! It's so dark here. No. No. She fought back, every fiber of her being battled against the encroaching shadows. I want to let you take me. I choose, then choose wisely. The voice thundered, echoing through the void. Sarah felt the shadows surge with renewed fury, ready to engulf her whole. With a startling realization, she understood what must be done. She had to jump, had to push through the veil between them. But would it bring her closer or destroy everything? Lily. Desperation coiled tightly again. Sarah closed her eyes, willing her love to unlock the darkness, to shimmer brightly against the incoming nightmare. And then she leapt, into the uncertain void that waited hungrily below. The ground fell away. What would she find in the darkness? As she descended, the shadows reached out like clammy hands, ready to embrace or obliterate. In that terrifying moment, something else flickered in the depths, something far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. What awaited her below, in the heart of the darkness? The plunge into the dark felt endless. It swallowed her whole, a pit of despair drawing her deeper. The whispers crescendoed, an orchestra of anguished cries and mocking laughter swirling around her like a tempest. Every heartbeat thudded against her chest as she plummeted further into the unknown. Then she landed not with a thud against earth, but with a soft, sickening squelch that reverberated through her entire body. A sticky dread enveloped her. She stood upon what felt like more shadows twisting into something tangible, like a mass of writhing bodies beneath her feet. Lily! She screamed, the name clawing at her throat. But there was no answer, just the relentless gnawing of darkness encroaching around her, squeezing tighter. Sarah strained her eyes, willing them to adjust. Shapes materialized amidst the shadows. Distorted faces and clawing hands, twisted and grotesque, flashed before her, trapped in their own torment. They turned to her, a sea of eyes, all hungry. What do you want? Her voice trembled, uncertainty creeping in. Power, they chanted, their voices a deep, guttural rumble. Join us, the shadows pulsed with eager anticipation, dancing at her feet like hungry wolves. Mom, a faint whisper threaded through the cacophony. Sarah's heart surged. It was her daughter. She moved forward, feet sliding in the viscous mess that surrounded her. Lily. Her voice broke, desperation clawing at her insides. Help me, the whisper was threaded with sorrow. She felt the sharp pang of 1,000 memories, birthdays, laughter, comfort, and most terrifyingly, death. The darkness clung to her, wrapping tighter, pulling her back. You're not worthy of her. They taunted. Embrace your fears and let them flow. You desire power too, don't you? No. I want my daughter. She pushed forward, fear sharpening her resolve. But as she fought her way deeper, the darkness morphed, revealing terrors buried within her own heart. Why didn't you protect her? A shadow hissed, its voice an echo of her mind. I tried. Despair surged within her like a tidal wave. Images flooded her, the car ride, her back turned, the stranger's face shaking with laughter, the unending guilt eating at her. The shadows surged closer, a tide of condemnation. Your love was never strong enough. But your weakness can fuel our power. I won't give in. She gasped, summoning remnants of strength from deep within. The shadows squeezed, thrumming like a living thing, drawing her energy. Sarah felt lightheaded, as if her very essence was being siphoned away. "Feel it, the darkness inside you," they shrieked in unison. "No!" she screamed, clutching the book tightly. She remembered the flicker of light she summoned before. The forces of darkness recoiled at it, their grip weakening. "Lily!" she called once more, pouring every ounce of her love into the words. "Hold on." But the flicker was fading, her strength waning. The figures leaned in, breathless with hunger, and she caught sight of her daughter's face behind them, pale and terrified. "I'm here." Sarah fought to push her voice through the entangled darkness. "I'm coming." As she thrust the book forward, the crushing weight of despair began to lift. Shapes recoiled, twisting and falling back. Shadows hissed and screamed, their once solid grip now faltering, but then one shadow lunged forward, more substantial than the rest, its eyes wicked and wide, as it whispered just for her, "Your sacrifice, Sarah, is the key. Choose." The question hung in the air, coiling around her heart like a vice. Just as her resolve began to crack, the world around her flickered. What was she willing to pay to save her daughter? The shadows danced, waiting for her choice, and as they did, something flickered in her mind. A memory, just on the edge of recognition. Could it be that simple? "Lily," she murmured, her heart racing as horror dawned anew. Was the choice between saving her or herself going to destroy everything? A shudder of realization struck her. What if, in saving one, she lost the other forever? And the darkness was hungry for her answer. The darkness pressed heavily against Sarah, coiling around her like a serpent ready to strike. Her heart raced as she thought of Lily, the anguish brimming in her chest like a blister ready to burst. The shadows whispered, "Choose." The word echoed, taunting her. Sarah blinked against the oppressive night, the faces of lost souls swirling around her, pleading yet accusing, embodying all her fears woven into one horrific tapestry. "No. I won't give in," she yelled, her voice reverberating against the evil that sought to consume her. Each breath burned in her lungs as if the very air was infused with despair. Time blurred, the sensation of being lost deepened. Where was Lily? A flicker. There, amidst the chaos, she thought she saw her daughter, a ghostly silhouette caught in the shadows. "Mom!" A terrified voice broke through the clamor, piercing the reality of nightmare. Sarah's heart leapt, fueling resolve. "I'm here, Lily. I'm coming." In that moment, clarity struck like a lightning bolt. She had a choice. The shadows shrieked in fury, lunging toward her, but that flicker of hope, the love for her daughter, ignited something unfathomable within Sarah. "You want my power?" she shouted, her voice now a battle cry. "Fine. You can have it, but know this, I would burn through the darkest night to save the light of my life." The shadows recoiled, blindsiding her with an unseen attack, the ground trembled beneath her, ready to swallow her whole. Yet, even as despair pulled her, Sarah could feel the love burning bright, illuminating a path forward. "I choose love. I choose my daughter." She thrust the book above her, bearing its light like a sword against the shadows. A radiant energy erupted from the pages, illuminating the dreary abyss as if 1,000 stars had ignited in defiance. The screams intensified, writhing like a cacophony of misery. Shapes twisted in torment, clinging to the fleeting hope that evaded their grasp. "I won't abandon her." Despite the pain threading through her body, despite the terrible weight of fear trying to anchor her down, Sarah surged forward. She pushed through the darkness, her spirit gleaming brightly. "We rise together, Lily. I'm not afraid." Suddenly, the shadows enveloped her again, their icy hands pressing against her skin, trying to draw her back into despair. But as they tightened around her, faces began to break free of the darkness. The shadowy figures, long prisoner to the void, emerged one by one. They were here too, echoes of Sarah's own fears and regrets beginning to shed their misery. Each one connected, like threads in a grand tapestry of memories. She recognized them. They were the faces she had left behind, the fears that once isolated her, now together in their shared pain. Embrace what was to free what can be. A voice echoed from within her heart, a parental knowing. With each word, she drew closer to the shimmer of hope that pulsed through her like lifeblood. Suddenly, Lily's voice threaded through the darkness again, clear and strong. "Mom, I believe in you." With a final push, Sarah reached toward the silhouette of her daughter. That flicker in the dark grew brighter, radiant in the shadows, as her mother's love surged in defiance. It crackled through the air, an electric hum. "I'll always find you, sweetheart. No matter the darkness." In that moment, an explosion of light erupted around her, a blinding brilliance stretching across the entire abyss. Time twisted and compressed as shadows shrieked and contorted, losing their grip on reality. They broke apart, dissolving like mist in sunlight, retreating to the corners of her memory where they belonged. Sarah felt warmth wrap around her shoulders, and as she opened her eyes, she found herself standing in their backyard, the moon bathing everything in a gentle glow. The weight of shadows slipped away, revealing the familiar laughter that reigned in her heart. "Mommy!" The exclamation came like a sweet refrain, and there stood Lily, unharmed, eyes wide and sparkling with joy, bathed in shimmering light. Relief crashed over Sarah, sweeping through her like a powerful tide. "Oh, thank God!" Sarah rushed forward, enveloping her daughter in a crushing embrace, their hearts beating as one with unyielding love. "What did you do, Mom?" Lily looked up, awestruck, as if sensing the journey they had just shared. "I fought, my love. I fought for us," Sarah replied, tears streaming down her face. "And I will continue to fight for you, for our family, for the light against any darkness." With the shadows defeated, her heart no longer clutching at despair, they stood together, framed by the true essence of their love. Maple Grove lay quiet around them, peaceful and whole again. And although scars remained, they were scars of strength, a testament to the unyielding bond between a mother and her child. As dawn broke over the horizon, the darkness of the night melted away, light flooding into their home, a promise of hope and new beginnings. Sarah felt a grounded sense of purpose. The past was a teacher, and now she would forge a future lit by love, the brightest force of all. And so, with a heart full of hope and arms firmly linked with Lily, they stepped hand in hand into the warmth of the day, ready for whatever lay ahead. Before you go, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story that's coming your way. Smash that like button now if you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion. It seriously makes waves in the algorithm. Don't sleep on this. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us talk it out, and please, share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this wild finale. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. This community thrives on you. You need to be part of it.